Hello everybody, welcome to my very first sketchbook tour. I was so happy to finally finish this sketchbook. I actually have many sketchbooks, and this is the very first one that I've ever finished. So this is mostly my gouache sketchbook, so almost everything in here, except for maybe one piece, are all gouache studies or exercises that I've been doing. It's my learning sketchbook, and it's actually the Etcher sketchbook, the cold press watercolor paper one. And the cover is a white canvas cover, so I painted this with gouache. I painted the front cover and the side of the sketchbook as well as the back. I probably should have continued with the same scene that I had in the front, but I decided to do this. And then what I did was I sealed it with cold wax so that it stays nice and protected. I'm not very careful with my sketchbooks, especially when I'm outside. So I wanted to just keep it as, clean as possible. So let me show you what is in here. One of the things that I've really enjoyed in the last few years is just exploring color and color mixing and seeing what I can achieve with limited palettes and what the gouache will look like as you add white or black or just mix it with other colors to make new color palettes. So this is something that you'll see in a few pages in here, I think. I also have my information on here in case I lose it. People can contact me and let me know that they found it, hopefully. These are some exercises adding water to gouache just to see all of the various consistencies that you can achieve with the medium, and playing around with some brush making, some brush marks, just different mark making that you can make with one brush. And then over here, exploring wet on dry, what it looks like when you mix it wet on wet, some dry on dry, dry brush effects, which are really cool. Those are some of my favorites. And again, some more mark making with my different brushes to see the different types of marks that I can make. Now this one was more exploring the effects of white on your gouache and noting how the value shifts once it dries, because it looks really different when it's wet. And over here was just layering and seeing all of the different consistencies that I could layer the gouache with. This one was mostly out of the tube, I think, because there's a lot of dry brush effects here. I've taken a lot of live online classes with instructors whose artwork I love, and I've learned so much from them. Jared Cullum is one of them, so this page is all from one of his still life classes. This one is with Mike Hernandez, and I love his artwork. These are value studies I did in gouache with Tiffany Mang. This was one of our homework assignments, and here I added the white so you can really see like the effect of the white, and I wasn't enjoying that, and she actually recommended just sticking to the burnt sienna and water. And this shows you pretty much like the watercolor, really transparent way that you can use the gouache. And then how the white affects the colors, especially those warm colors like burnt sienna or any kind of yellows or reds. These are value studies I did for a landscape class with Jared Cullum. And then this was a quick little study I did outdoors just a few months back. This one is the only one in here that's not gouache. It's watercolor. It was a paint along with Matthew White, and I did add a little bit of gouache to it. And then this is one I did after watching a tutorial online, and I really started to enjoy doing flowers. I like this loose approach, so I've been doing a lot of floral paintings lately, and that's not something usual for me. I never really was the type of person that was attracted to painting flowers. I love flowers, but I never liked painting them, and lately I've just been exploring that as a still life, and it's been really fun. This was a paint along as well, and I did a one day, I've done it a couple of times, the one day gouache live sessions where you have like 7 artists throughout the whole day demoing. So a lot of these that I did them while I was following along live. This one was a gouache gradient using a lot of water, just seeing what happens with that. So I do a lot of exploration in my sketchbook. This was from my imagination. I was just in the mood to do something, a scene like this. It's a little more illustrative. And this one introduced me to an artist whose artwork I really love. Her name is Carla Bosch, and I love her approach to painting. It's very loose and impressionistic, and I want to try to apply more of what I learned from her. And this one was a class I took with Kate Koss, also online, but it was live. I think this was like one of my first like gouache lessons. This one, I don't remember who the artist was, but it was in Gouache Live. And then this was my very first live plein air painting outdoors that I did by myself. So it's very rough and yeah, it needs a lot of work, but I decided to leave it alone because this is my sketchbook. This is where I'm learning, right? These were done in classes with Jared Cullum. This shows you kind of the watercolory effect again that you can achieve with the gouache. And then a lot of the rest of these are exercises that I did in preparation for little mini paintings that I did with Sarah Burns. So a lot of the gouache I've learned in the last couple of years has been with her, with a lot of live online classes and even some of her recorded lessons as well. So Gouache Live with Kate Hudson. This one was watercolor and gouache, and this was a study that I did from a photo that I took in Hawaii a few years ago. So this is my photo. I was practicing in my sketchbook, and then after learning a little bit from this exercise, I did this little mini painting, which I'm pretty happy with. I feel like having done it here and then doing it over here again really helped. This one was a paint along with Ruth Wiltshaw, a live session. And then this one was just me exploring a different color palette than what's usual for me. This was a scene from my imagination. And then here we have lots of color swatching and color mixing and adding water to see the different consistencies of the gouache. So learning a lot about the medium with these exercises. These are also with Sarah Burns, so we did a lot of concept studies and then color studies in preparation for the paintings. I have the paintings on separate watercolor sheets. Again, value studies, color studies, and then practicing some blending with wet on wet effects. Here I was learning about different landscape elements and doing little exercises, paying attention to where the lighting is coming from, whether something's front lit or back lit, and then exploring stylized color palettes versus, you know, just the local color that is in the subjects. More of our concept studies and mini color studies, and then practicing some clouds using lots of different textures and colors. This was a fun exercise. So these are all from Sarah Burns courses, practicing different ways to make sand. And then here I was just practicing with my dagger brush, just seeing all the different ways that I could use it and angles to get different kinds of marks. This is a little quick plein air study that I did not too long ago on a day that was actually nice outside. Sarah Burns, I love all of the stuff we did in her classes. Another plein air session that I did recently on a nice day. We've had some unusually nice weather here and there where I've tried to go outside when it's like that. And I noticed that lots of my color palettes are very similar. When I paint outside, I tend to have like go-to colors, and I really want to explore going outside of that comfort zone and trying some other colors. These are some more practices with my different brushes and more color mixing. This was a really cool lesson that Sarah Burns gave. I love this one. And I should have applied what we learned here when I was outside yesterday painting this. And I thought of it later. I'm like, I could have just used this approach over here because I have a really hard time simplifying when I'm outside. When I'm outside, I get overwhelmed. I see so many things and I just seem to get too fussy and busy in my scenes. So I'm going to go back to this and try to apply what she learned here over here. I might even do it in a separate sketchbook, just learn from this little experience here. These were just color studies. I was exploring different color palettes for a scene from a picture that I took in Scotland that I wanted to turn into a painting. And I think like my favorite one was more of the yellows with the purples and greens. I thought this was a cool color combination. This was just me practicing layering and using gouache in different consistencies. So I did the just wet on wet up here, using it more like watercolor, and then slowly building up my textures and my layers and getting really like thick over here with dry brush. These were little plein air studies I did outside with snow, and just from a photo that I had. Some more plein air studies. This one was color pencil, a watercolor pencil that I did study, and that's what this was supposed to be, but I didn't like it, so I just painted over it completely. This is at the conservatory. And then this is a little still life from a still life class I was taking with Jared Cullum from Gouache Live. I think I've done a couple of Gouache Live sessions now. This is a paint along with Michelle Usibelli, and I really liked her approach. I love the way that she paints, very like similar, I feel like, to Carla Bosch, where there's some techniques that I used to use in oils, and I realized, like, why don't I just use some of those oil techniques when I'm painting with my gouache? I feel like I compartmentalize, and I shouldn't, because I should really find ways that my different mediums and applications and techniques can overlap. More brush making marks over here. This was with Tiffany Mang. It was during Gouache Live as well. And here, what I learned from this one was really trying to let the water, like watery, translucent background wash color that I put in, which was this yellow ochre, show through more, because that's what she did over here. And it really made her scene pop, and I lost that. So I started to try to cover it up with thicker paint, and it wasn't working out. And that's one of the things that I've learned in her classes, because I did like a 4-month course with her on essentials in painting, and one of the things that she does is letting that first layer show through, where you have that translucence and that brightness and luminosity coming through. This was a paint along with Danny Folkman. And then this was a little plein air study I did in Chinatown here in Chicago. Not really plein air. I was sitting in my car. It was too cold. That's what I do. I paint from my car quite a bit, like I did here. It was a really snowy scene, so I sat in my car and painted this one, but this was outside. And then this is a little landscape study with Jared Cullum. This was a live paint along with Scott Christensen. I absolutely love his artwork, and it was cool to see how he approaches his paintings. This is nothing like his, but it was really fun to learn from him. This last one is from one of our box subscription lessons with Sarah Burns on flowers. So I learned a lot about just the anatomy of flowers and how different ways to approach the flowers and the layering and the petals. So this sketchbook has like a little pocket in the back as well. It's a really great sketchbook. All of their sketchbooks are amazing. So there you have it, my first ever sketchbook tour with my gouache sketchbook. I hope you enjoyed it.